Hey folks, it's Jake here at Canadian Cutting Edge. I suspect this video is going to be pretty short. I'm reviewing these. What are these? Well, you saw it in the thumbnail at the beginning. This is the hole milled clamps by TSPROF, and I believe they've got this fitment end to go with all of their different sharpening machines that they have. I've got a K02. The next newest one is the K03, and they got slightly different brackets that hold the clamps. This clamp is made out of one piece of an aluminum alloy. They've heat treated it. They've put a fairly durable, actually very durable coating on here. This is like my 6-month review. I've had these things for a long time. Well, it's actually closer to 5 months. I've had these for quite a while, and I've used these as my main clamps for sharpening. You know, if it didn't fit in here, I use something else. But otherwise, other than that, this has been my go-to set of clamps. You see a little bit of wear on the side there where I slid my sharpening stone across the side of it, and it's held up quite well. It's a one-screw system, and that's, you know, the genius of this thing. You don't have various screws to adjust it. You've got one screw, and it's got a decent size Allen head on there, so you know you're not easily going to strip anything out. You just mount this on the back of your rotating. Imagine this, my nose is the pivot point and the whole thing swivels, the sharpening system. You mount it on the side, and you mount the other one over here, depending on the length of your blade, and then the whole thing just pivots back and forth to flip over to do the other side. And the clamp system, this works really well on any knife that's got flats. If it's got a flat close to the pivot, that end of the handle, or the handle end of the blade, you clamp this down. Basically what I want to say is it's one piece of aluminum. They've milled out the center here, and then they put this screw in and threaded this end here, and it's worked flawlessly. I have put a tiny bit of oil on those threads. I don't want anything to wear, and I know aluminum's softer than steel, so I want to make sure that's nicely lubed, and it just works, and it works very, very well. Easy. I'll show you. Let's go over to my sharpening system. Take a good look at this thing. So here's the main clamp that comes with the system. You've got a couple steel bars. You've got steel springs. That's what these silvery parts are. And it bolts together and screws on to your cross member here that you have. You stick it in there, you put it on, and they've got different varieties of these. And to tighten it up, you've got two main screws. You've got this screw here, this tall one, and then you've got this one here. You want these to be mostly parallel when your knife is in the jaws. So you put the blade on here, and oops, I got to open it up just a little bit. You put it on there like that, and you tighten the jaws down, and you might put a second one on here. It's not very long, so I might do it closer to the middle. Tighten it down, tighten that down until we've got the lines mostly parallel, not like they are right now. And it holds quite well. There's a little bit of play in this. Sometimes when these springs get old, you have to replace them. And so it's decent, but it's not the best system that they've got. This is the best system that they've got right here. So here's the one I had off before. Here's a close-up look at it. And it's a really good system. Lots of nice thread on here, nice big 1/4 inch wide threads. And in my case, there's the tongue, there's the groove, fits right in there perfectly, and you just snug it up. Don't over tighten this, but you certainly have to get it tight enough. Let's tighten this down. You just have to do it thumb tight, because that's how it's designed. And you can do a very long knife in here. Here's a funky, silly looking knife, and you put it in here, and let me move these a little closer to the center. There you go. Since this is a shorter, since the flat zone here isn't very long, put it in here. Oh, I got to open that up just a little bit. I don't remember, I believe it comes with a big Allen key, but I like to use this on my screwdriver. It's just a little more convenient for me. This is a fairly thick blade. I'll put the measurement on the screen. and it fits in there perfectly. You can put it quite a bit thicker. I'll put the thickest blade you can put in there on the screen as well. And then you just tighten these down. I'm going to stay back from the edge a little bit. There we go. Tighten them down. And then just a little bit extra. You don't want to over tighten them because you're going to wreck the stuff. So you'll learn, your own strength and how hard you make stuff. You want to practice with a couple of knives that you don't mind scratching up, because what you want to do is tighten it down and then try to wiggle it in there. And then, you'll learn how tight you have to make it for when it stops wiggling, right? So that you'll learn to do it to make it stop wiggling and no more. So there's the clamp on the system. Let's move it a little bit here so you can see the blade a little bit. So it's in there, and now the whole thing just rotates just like it did before. And it works great, holds it nice and snug. You don't need to watch me sharpening anything. That's not what this is about. What's great is you've got just one screw for each clamp. A lot of the smaller knives, like this little folder here, I would just put one clamp on this. That's all it needs, because it holds so very, very well. If you've got any questions or comments, leave them down below. I just got the closing comments to come yet. Before I do that, let me tell you, there is a United States dealer for the TSPROF knives now in South Carolina. So you can get your knives and stuff directly from USA. You can talk to an American. Shipping is from South Carolina. Warranty work is done, processed in South Carolina, so you don't have to ship back to there. So if you're in North America and you want to deal, a little closer to home, I got that contact information down below the video. But in the description area, I've got all that contact information, both for the main TSPROF store in Russia and for the dealer that is in South Carolina. Okay, so now that you've seen that, do I recommend this? It's $82 US. That's closer to like 110 Canadian at the terrible exchange rate that we have right now. Hopefully the exchange rate gets better. But yeah, so it has an expense. If you can afford it, it's definitely worth it. The convenience factor is tremendous. It's much more convenient, and I think it holds better. So these clamps, awesome. Like I said, totally recommend them if you can afford them and if you're buying a TSPROF. When you contact them and you already have a TSPROF, be prepared to give them all the information about that bar, the mounting bar that your clamps mount onto. They'll want to know the dimensions because they've got different varieties of them. And so they'll sell you the clamps that fit your system. Thanks for watching, liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. And remember, guys, always cut towards somebody else. Your chum, maybe, not your thumb.